I still see a couple folks trickling in. I'll give it another 20 seconds or so, and then we can get started. Okay, good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to our meeting and read the affirmation that we've started most of our meetings off with lately. I want to thank everyone for their time, effort, and participation in our work before us today. I want to recognize it is very difficult and important work, and that I appreciate and value the perspectives and professionalism that everyone brings here today. Thank you. And that being said, I think we can kick off with roll. If Terry wants to, has the list. And
I do. Matt Calzia. Is Matt here today?
Hello, I'm here.
Yay! Hi, Matt. Good to see you.
Good to see y'all.
Sarah. Sarah Merrick. Is Sarah here today? Is there anything in the chat? Let's see. Scott's here. Margaret's here. Sarah Duckwell is here. Ryan Hearn.
Present.
There he is.
Hello.
Patrick is not here today. And Kim Schlesinger. Is Kim here? I thought I saw her on.
I see a Kim S. waving.
Okay, that would be who I was looking for. And Director Stolfi, I believe he is on as well.
Yep, I'm here. Good morning.
Great. All right.
Morning. All right, so first up, I know we have hold a little space at the beginning for any public comments. So I'll give a minute for any public comment that folks may have. I see Matt raising his hand.
I'd like to commandeer the public comment period for a moment, if I may.
Of course.
I'm on my shift right now and just got out for a break to join you all. I unfortunately have to resign from the MLAC. I'm having a hard time finding the balance of going back to the bedside and being able to make these meetings consistently. And I will be resigning effective immediately because I need to get back to my shift here. And I just wanted to say I have really enjoyed working with you all and learned more than I ever thought I would learn about workers' compensation and the processes that we go through. And it's actually been somewhat inspiring as I'm in the depths of our American healthcare system. I think that MLAC could actually be a great example of how we should be looking to move forward. I know that as employers, you're seeing your insurance premiums skyrocket. And I will tell you that your employees are getting worse services for those skyrocketing premiums. And we all need to come together and find ways to solve these problems. And I think if we can find a common path to challenging the interests that are the insurance companies and the healthcare systems who are profiting off of our labor and our businesses, we could probably find some good solutions on how to increase access to high quality care, which I think MLAC has demonstrated the way to keep costs low and help making sure that workers have access to quality care. So I have been inspired by you all and have really enjoyed working with everybody and being on this advisory committee. And unfortunately, it's just finding the balance is tough. And I've also been appointed to the Nurse Staffing Advisory Board, which is a little bit more of a priority for me right now. So thank you all so much. It's been a great experience.
Thank you so much, Matt. I really cannot say enough good things about you and your efforts, especially through the subcommittee and everything else. You've really dove in and helped us through so much. I really appreciate your perspective on healthcare issues, especially the insightful commentary that you've brought to a lot of those matters before us, I think has been invaluable, I know, for me. So I wish you well and thank you very much for your service, and wish you a safe return to work. I see it. You seem to be right in the thick of things. I see the mask down, but the hairnet's still on. So I appreciate all of your work there, and look forward to hopefully grabbing a coffee with you sometime soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Lots of thank yous in the chat, Matt, for your service. So
All right.
wanted to share that. Thank you as well from Workers' Compensation DCBS.
Thank you all. All right. With that, I'm going to go back to it. So you take care. Be well.
Be safe.
Thank you, Matt. All right. Do we have any other public comments? Not seeing any other public comments. So I know next on the agenda is review and approve minutes. How are we doing on a quorum? Now that
I think we, wait a minute, maybe not. Oh. Is Sarah joined the meeting? Did Sarah join the meeting? Sarah Merrick, sorry, let me look. I do not see her. So you're right, we do not have a quorum.
so maybe we can check back later to see if she's able to join. I will send her a text message now. And we can move on to the next. I see department updates, starting with Workers' Compensation Board case law updates as next on the agenda.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, members of MLAC, for having me. My name's Sarah Larson. I'm filling in for Lauren Eldridge right now, and the board has no updates at this time. Got it?
Thank you very much. Next, I see Workers' Compensation Division updates, if any, from Terry.
I do not have any updates today.
Okay, and I think Sarah may be on in just a minute, so we may get back to the minutes. But let's continue on. I see annual report on Workers' Benefit Fund programs. Do we have Kelly on? Yes.
Yep, I'm here.
All right, take it away.
All right, thank you. Let me get my screen up and ready for you all.
Jeff is giving you access, so you should be able to have this screen.
Okay.
Oh, you're perfect. Great.
Good. All right. All right. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. And can you hear me all right? I don't use Zoom very often, so I hope the settings are all working appropriately.
Seems to be
all
working for me, and I'm remote, so I am going to assume it's good for everyone else.
Fabulous. Thank you. All right. Thank you, co-chairs, members of the committee, and thanks, Terry, for getting this all set up and ready for me. For the record, my name is Kelly Barushko. I'm the senior economist for the Department of Consumer and Business Services, and I'll be providing you with a status update for the Workers' Benefit Fund first, and then we'll move on to permanent partial disability afterwards. But for now, we'll start with the Worker Benefit Fund. We'll start with an overview and then provide more detail on the individual programs that feed into it as we go along. Is this? Let's see. All right, there we go. All right, so this graph here, starting off strong, shows the ending fund balance for the Worker Benefit Fund as of September 30th, 2023. The vertical line on the chart shows where our most recent actual data is sitting. And then everything to the right of that line is our forecast. So that kind of bluish purple line is all of our forecast values. So as of September, the balance in the fund was $138.2 million. This is about 22 months worth of our normal Worker Benefit Fund expenditures. And this is in compliance with the requirements set by House Bill 2788 of the 2019 session to maintain at least 12 months of expenditures in the fund. So just explaining our forecast a little bit more, we use a few different economic indicators along with historical trends to help us calculate the expected fund balance. So for revenues, our main metric is Oregon employment, along with the Worker Benefit Fund assessment rate that's set every year. Employment has returned to pre-COVID levels, and the Office of Economic Analysis, where we get a lot of our data from, is projecting employment levels to be relatively stable through fiscal year 2029. The Worker Benefit Fund assessment rate was actually lowered this past year to 2.0 cents per hour effective January 1 of 2024. So that, coupled with the stable employment forecast, leads us to expect a slight decrease in revenue earned through the forecast period. And then for expenditures, the main factors in projecting our expenditures are Oregon wages and then accepted disabling claims, as well as various DCBS administrative costs. Due to higher wages in the past several years and accepted disabling claims, expenditures have increased or did increase in fiscal year 2023. However, we don't expect this to continue as wage increases are leveling off after the big influx in inflation. So although expenditures are expected to outpace, or because expenditures are expected to outpace revenues, the Worker Benefit Fund balance is expected to slowly decline, but it will stay above that 12 months worth of expenditures through our forecast period. So we'll still stay above that statutorily required floor. So in this chart, we show the Worker Benefit Fund assessment rate since the fund's creation in 1996. As mentioned, the current rate is 2.0 cents per hour, and this is split between the employer and the employee. We are at our lowest rate ever for this fund, which is fantastic for both employers and employees. And this rate, as a reminder, is determined by Director Stolfi or whoever the director is at the time every year in a manner that minimizes changes in the rate while also maintaining that required 12 months worth of expenditures in the fund. So here we show a breakdown of the WBS expenditures by program area. So the retroactive program, which pays cost of living adjustments for fatal or permanent total disability injuries, makes up the largest section with $39.7 million paid in fiscal year 2023. And then the reemployment assistance program, which helps injured workers return to work faster, comes in second with $29 million paid in fiscal year 2023. And this program includes the employer at injury program and the preferred worker program. And together, these two programs make up almost 94% of WBS program costs, and we'll talk about them a little bit more in detail later. The Reopen Claims Program paid about $3.5 million in fiscal year 2023. This program reimburses insurers and self-insured employers for certain costs that arise after a worker's aggravation rights have expired. And then the smallest section includes several very small programs, including the Workers with Disabilities Program, wages for multiple jobs component, and claims payments for dissolved self-insured groups. And this group collectively paid about $1.3 million in fiscal year 2023.
And maybe a quick question before moving on. The retroactive program mentions that it pays a cost of living adjustment. What is that cost of living adjustment? Is it linked to CPI, or how is that calculated?
So it's based on the statewide average weekly wage, and that is based on wages. I'm assuming CPI is included. That's actually calculated by the employment department. So I don't know the full calculation that goes into that, but the retroactive program is based on the statewide average weekly wage.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions before we move on?
I'm not seeing any other hands, so I think you're good for now.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so on this slide, we'll talk a little bit more about the retroactive program. So on here, you can, since 1986, the number of total claims, which is the black line that you see on the screen, that number has generally decreased over time, while the average payment per claim has generally increased. We're seeing very few new claims enter into this program, as we're seeing fatalities and permanent total disability claims decrease due to obviously great OSHA compliance for employers in Oregon. And this causes the claim count to decline as older claims fall out of the system. But we're also seeing a steady increase in cost per claim because the benefits are based on a statewide average weekly wage, which I mentioned, which generally increases over time. And as you can see in the last couple of years, the spike in average payment is due to large increases in the average weekly wage in 2022 and 2023. And this pie chart just shows the number of claims by decade of injury. So this is showing that more than half the claims that are still being paid out of the retroactive program have injury dates before 1990. There are still new claims entering this program, but the frequency with which they enter has dramatically declined. For example, during the 1970s, there was on average one new fatal or permanent total disability claim every day. And over the last decade, there's been less than one new claim each week. In 2022, which is the most recent data we have available, worker benefit fund payments were made on 1,521 claims with an average payment of $26,648 per claim. Next, we'll talk a little bit more about the reemployment assistance program. The two main programs in this program are the employer at injury and the preferred worker programs. The employer at injury program helps injured workers return to work faster through wage subsidies and worksite modifications. The program is designed to help workers perform transitional work within that worker's limitations from their injuries. And this generally accounts for about 75% of the reemployment assistance program's expenditures. We've had a couple, the two most recent years, there's been a bit of an increase in the employer at injury program. And I'm noticing that the percentages don't quite add up, and that's due to rounding, just FYI. And I can make adjustments if that's confusing for anybody in the final version of this. The remaining expenditures for the reemployment assistance program are for the preferred worker program, which helps workers with permanent restrictions from on-the-job injuries who can't return to their regular employment. In addition to wage subsidies and worksite modification, the preferred worker program also provides premium exemptions for 3 years and claim cost reimbursements to employers as incentives to hire and retain preferred workers. Next, we'll talk about the worker benefit fund liability, which is how much we anticipate the worker benefit fund would have to pay for folks currently receiving some type of worker benefit fund benefit through the end of their claims. This graph shows our estimates for future liability back through fiscal year 2014. And our most recent forecast projections projects just over $896 million in future liability, the vast majority of this being for the retroactive program. Which you can see on this slide. So this is a breakdown of the program's expected liability as of June 30th, 2023. The retroactive program, again, makes up the majority of expected future liability, largely because of the length of time each worker or their beneficiaries is paid through the program. So this, again, it's not only the worker that's getting paid, but any beneficiary, including a spouse or children, are paid for specific durations of time based on the injury.
And I do see a hand up from Sarah Duckwall.
Thank you, Co-Chair Strickland. Kelly, a quick question on the unfunded liability. Does this pose a concern at this level? And what would that rate need to be to have it funded? Thank you.
So this is the projected fund balance going into well into the future. So this isn't a liability that needs to be paid in the next year or two. This is throughout the life of the claim. So this just shows kind of the basically, if we're taking the number of claims being paid with the average payment, what that's going to look like each. If there were no changes in what was going on, how much we'd have to pay over the life of all of these claims. So for example, if a 30-year-old worker was fatally injured and had a spouse, that spouse would continue to get paid through the duration of their life for basically unearned wages. So there's no concern in terms of paying these out. We are well funded in terms of the individual years worth of expenditures to pay for these programs.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Not seeing any other hands yet.
Great, thank you. All right, and finally, here's a breakdown of the administrative costs DCBS incurs to operate these programs. The majority of the costs are for DCBS administration, which includes shared services, the Workers' Compensation Division, and then the Ombuds Office for Oregon Workers. In total, these costs come out to just over $5.2 million for fiscal year 2023. We also have the Bureau of Labor and Industries funds, which for fiscal year 2023 only made up of 1% of admin costs. These are used for investigation of workers' compensation retaliation. And then finally, the Oregon Institute of Occupational Health Sciences funds are for workplace safety research, and these totaled about $2 million in fiscal year 2023. And that is all I have for this presentation. Are there any other questions that I can answer for anybody?
I see Sarah Duckwall again.
Thank you, Co-Chair Strickland. Kelly, we have seen, it appears to be an extremely healthy fund. What can we do to increase utilization to benefit everybody?
You mean of the funds themselves?
Like the return to work programs, and I mean, if the fund is extremely healthy and the money is there, can we speak to the utilization of it?
So that is something that I probably cannot answer. The workers' compensation group and the team that provides those benefits probably would be better able to answer those questions. If Terry or somebody in the room can speak a little bit better to that portion.
So my name's Charity Steffen, and I'm the Employment Services Team Manager. And I'll apologize really quickly. I didn't hear the very last part. I was trying to make sure that I actually had a mic. But with regard to utilization of the fund to increase program usage, the first thing I want to address is I was incredibly happy to see that there had been an increase in the employer and injury program usage. My team over the past 2 years has really done a lot of very focused outreach within the insurance industry, voc counselors trying to help educate on use of the programs. And so that was very, that made me very happy to hear that we're actually seeing an increased usage of that. We really have been trying to focus a lot of efforts on getting out into the communities. We are focusing on underserved and underrepresented communities, trying to make sure that the information about the reemployment programs are available to everybody. But that is definitely one of our very important tasks every single day when we come to work, trying to do that. So we are working diligently on trying to increase program usage.
Yeah, that answers my.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for the question. Any other questions from folks? I'm trying to peer into the peanut gallery on the WCD OWL 360 view. I'm not seeing any hands raised or people running to the table. So I think
It's just staff in the room today, so does that help?
yep. But maybe staff is really excited about this and wants to share. All right. So it's my understanding. I think there's another presentation that you have as well.
Yep, I do.
Perfect.
So if there's no more questions about worker benefit fund, although I'm happy to, if anybody comes up with any other questions at any other point, I'm happy to circle back and answer any of those. But the next presentation is about permanent partial disability. This is a biennial report and review by MLAC. So some of you may have not seen this information before, but we will go ahead and get started. Okay. All right. Is my screen share working again?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. There we go. All right. So again, thank you, co-chairs, members of the committee. I've got the same little spiel at the beginning of this. This is going to be the update for permanent partial disability, like you mentioned today. And this is just going to be a summary of the biennial update document that Terry Watson sent to everyone in MLAC yesterday. Is also the, I don't think I mentioned this for the worker benefit fund, but this information will be available with the documents for this meeting today on the MLAC website. Okay. All right, so there were several bills in the 2000s that modified permanent partial disability rating criteria and benefit calculations. And in 2007, House Bill 2244 made these changes permanent and required a biennial review of PPD benefits by MLAC. So this update today provides information on trends for the purpose of that review. So as a quick overview of permanent partial disability, it's the permanent loss of use or function of any portion of a worker's body resulting from accepted disabling conditions. So once a worker is considered medically stationary by a medical provider, the insurer can close the claim and determine any PPD benefits using the steps outlined in administrative rule. I've listed both of those, the ones for injury dates prior to January 1, 2005, and the rule for injuries after that date. The worker and the insurer can also agree to a claim disposition agreement or CDA before claim closure. But if the worker and insurer sign the CDA, there are no PPD awards granted. The focus of this report is going to be on the new benefit system because most of the claims that are in the system still are with injury dates past January 1, 2005. We'll see a little bit of kind of the history of the changeover later in the presentation, but there's less than 1% of benefits that are being paid under the old system. Okay, so this graph here shows the number of initial claim closures since 2000. Those are the blue bars. And then along with the percentages of these claims awarded permanent partial disability, that's in the red line, and with the CDA, which is in the black line. The number of initial claim closures are closed claims plus those that were closed with a CDA. So just a note also on this that the number here does not take into account any reopened claims. Those are a very small percentage of the claims that are in here or with that get granted permanent partial disability. So in this chart, we only show the ones after their first closure. So on this graph, you can see that the number of closed claims grew during the housing boom starting in 2005 and then fell right afterwards in the Great Recession. And then since 2010, the number has been steadily increasing, driven by just general growth in the economy. We see a little tiny kind of leveling off in 2020 with COVID, but then a subsequent increase. And then moving on to the lines in the chart. So looking at the percent of claims with PPD awards, that red line there. Between 2000 and 2010, the percentage of claims with PPD awards granted ranged between 28 and 30% before beginning a pretty rapid decline to 11.2% in 2022. And then at the same time, CDAs started to become more prevalent. There were about 3.6% to total closed claims in 2010, excuse me. And then that grew to about 8% in 2020. That number has since decreased to 6.3% in 2022. This chart here shows the number of closed claims with PPD since 2005 by closure year and by the type of award. Impairment only, as a note, is awarded for loss of function like reduced range of motion or strength, whereas work disability is awarded when the worker is unable to return to their regular work. But work disability does include both impairment and work disability payments. We show both types on the same graph just to highlight the similarities in the trends of the awards given. So looking at the blue line and using the left side of the graph to show the count of claims, we see that there were almost 5,000 impairment-only claims in 2007, and that number has declined with about 2,400 impairment-only claims in 2022. And then looking at the purple line using the right side of the graph to show the count of claims, we can see that the decline in work disability claims has been a little bit steeper. There were over 1,000 work disability claims in 2008 and then fewer than 400 in 2022. So this figure shows the PPD awards that were awarded each year since 2004, and it illustrates the decline in the amount awarded under the pre-2005 structure that I mentioned before, and variation in the source of PPD award. The more peach and pink areas are the pre-2005 award structure, and the more blue areas are the current. So total awards have been generally declining since 2004. In 2022, which is the most recent year we have data for so far, PPD awards totaled $32.6 million. And like I mentioned earlier, of this amount, less than 1% were under the pre-2005 benefit structure. And then of the total amount in 2022, just over 97% of PPD award dollars were granted by the insurer, 1.3% by workers' comp reconsideration orders, and then 1.5% by board orders, hearings, or own motion cases. PPD benefits are a percentage of the statewide average weekly wage at the time of injury. So generally, average benefits grow approximately at the same rate as the average weekly wage. And the graph shows that here. A little bit of differences in the past couple of years with the expectation that as wages start to keep up and move alongside inflation, that will kind of maintain that similar increase over time. Here we're looking at impairment only claims. So again, those are claims with loss of function only. The average awards are shown in thousands of dollars. So the average PPD award for these impairment only claims has grown 3.8% since 2013 and was just over $6,300 in 2022. And then finally, this is sorry about that. Over here, we're looking at work disability claims broken into the respective impairment and work disability pieces of the awards given. In 2022, the average PPD award for work disability claims was about $43,200. And then of this, just under 13,000 was for impairment, so that blue section, and then 30,500 was for work disability. And while work disability claims made up only 14% of permanent partial disability claims, they had about 52% of the PPD dollars.
Do we, in speaking, this is Scott, to be kind to the folks having to take minutes, do we have, I assume the average here listed is the mean. Do we have additional, like a range of the top and the bottom, and then maybe a median amount or mode that we could also see on that?
Yeah, we could. I can get that for you. I don't have it readily available, but I can get it for you.
No, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And I don't see any other hands yet.
Okay. All right, well, hold on. There we go. And that was the end of everything I had. So I'm open for any other questions if anybody has any.
Any other questions from folks? Not seeing any. Give it one more shot. No. All right. Well, thank you so much for your presentation.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
And Terry, did I see Sarah Merrick has now joined as well?
Oh, wonderful. Yes. Hey, Sarah. Okay.
So I think that gives us a quorum and we'd be able to approve the minutes, correct?
Yes.
I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstaining? Not seeing any. Okay, great. So now, next on the agenda, I see legislative survey feedback discussion with Terry.
Yes, I sent out a quick survey and I received one back via email. So I wondered if maybe you could have another month and then you could send it back to me next month or sometime between now and the next meeting in May, so that we could have a bit of a discussion about how the legislative session went. And if you can't find it in your email, I'm happy to re-email it out again. But with one survey, it isn't much of a discussion, even though I'm very happy that somebody emailed me the survey. Yes, yay! So just want to talk about what you thought how the session went with all the tools that we have now on our website. The other thing is, I just want to let you know, in May, we should have approval from the governor's office to start discussing legislative concepts. So May might be a better month to discuss all of this. So if everybody's okay with that, we can look towards May.
Question, Terry. I apologize. This is the first I've seen, well, actually through the packet, the survey, so I must have missed it in my email. And the way I read it through a lens that maybe it should have gone to people wanting to present to MLAC. So I think that I would find that interesting.
And I'm happy to send it out to the people that did present to MLAC or were prepared to present until their bill died. So I'm happy to do that as well, Sarah.
Okay.
I think, yeah, that could be helpful, especially in good question, Sarah, to see if we can get a little stakeholder feedback on that as well. I know that we went through the process and had a lot to say about it, but I know a lot of it's geared towards stakeholder engagement, and that's kind of what we depend on. So I think that'd be a great idea to get some of that feedback as well from those who suffered with us through the joys of short session.
I guess with that, I'm not sure I have much to add to the survey.
Okay.
From that lens. So
I will just share that one of the suggestions from the survey I received is that we schedule all the legislative MLAC meetings ahead of time, even if we have to cancel them, so that they can go on everybody's calendar. So I thought that was a great idea. Just hold them on our calendars so we know that those meetings are going to take place, even if we just turn around and cancel them as we're moving through. We can't predict what's going to happen, but I thought that might be a good idea for everybody. I know it's a lot of meetings during session, but put placeholders
scheduled that way.
Pardon?
I thought they were scheduled that way. I saw them all on my calendar.
Oh, well, maybe they have been in the past, but I don't think that Baba and I did that. But great idea. I will make sure that that's being taken care of.
I know, I think that might have happened in the past, at least once, maybe during COVID, or maybe there was a practice of it. And I know that there were, I think, a little bit of that this last time, but I think there were still some, trying to get things scheduled on a short turnaround this last session as well. So, but yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Let me put Mary here. Okay, great, thank you.
Great. So yeah, I think it's a great idea. If you wouldn't mind maybe sending it out to everyone again, just so we make sure it kind of hits the top of everyone's inbox as we're done with this meeting. I think that would be helpful to get some better response percentage. And then we can touch again on that during the May meeting as you suggested.
Sounds great. Okay.
So I see next on the list, work plan update.
Yes, we have all kinds of updates. So the DEI training is for June 6th, and that is an in-person meeting. So we will be here in 260. We will have a working lunch. So we'll have our MLAC meeting, then we'll close the public meeting, and then we'll have a working lunch just for MLAC members for the training, the DEI training on June 6th. The next thing that I have, Bobby emailed out the mental health training proposal. And so we need to decide if you're good with that. And if we are, then we can move forward with that training.
Carrie, I have a comment if I may. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
For the mental health, I did pose via email a couple thoughts that it might be nice to have an update from the system or workers' comp as well, like how many mental health claims there are, and just a general overview of mental health and workers' comp along with the training. It might provide a more of a broader understanding.
You know what, Sarah, I put that request in. I need to see where it is, because when you ask, I think I put that request in. And so we were going to put together a one-pager with that data. I need to find out where that data request went. So
Thank you.
And we will have that for that. If you agree that this is a good idea, that we'll put this. We'll make sure that's, sorry, I'm not saying that well. We'll make sure that that one pager is available with this training.
And that
August 1st.
training is going to be remote, correct? That's what I read?
Well, it's in person, but it's available hybrid because I know that some people can't attend. I did ask the trainers if they could do that as well. So if you can come to the meeting, great. If you can't, then they have offered it virtual for people that can attend. So
Would it be better to find one where we can all do it together in person, or do they feel a hybrid approach is successful for this type of training?
they said that they could do the hybrid for people that couldn't attend, because I explained the situation to them and they said that was fine. If you read in here, on the second page where it says deliverables, 1 hour consultation, okay, that the training was 1.5 hours, but they did allow for virtual. So that would be an option, because I know that Patrick had shared with me that some people couldn't attend the August 1st meeting in person, or August 1st training in person.
I agree. I guess it's just a question for the group. If we feel that hybrid is going to be the best option for that training for us, or I am one that can't attend the August 1 in person.
Happy to have any group discussion on that.
I think if the facilitators are saying that hybrid works well for their delivery, then I'm okay with us being in person or remote. No, I don't have a strong opinion on it, but I'm okay with that approach if we want to go that way.
I also agree. Yeah, if the facilitators think they can deliver it okay on virtual, I have no issue with that.
I think I always express a preference for in-person, especially for trainings like that. But I agree. I think if the Facilitators think they can. I think one thing is that it would be good to have for all of us to have the information prior to the holidays, because I know that can be kind of a stressful time. And especially, you know, folks going back to school, and that can cause changes in family life and stress and whatnot. That having the training before all of that occurs may be helpful as well. There may be some value there, but open to continued discussion, whatever folks think.
Scott, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sarah, like Sarah, I cannot attend on August 1st. And I was wondering, Sarah, are you saying that you can't attend in person, or you are unable to attend at all?
I'm unable to attend in person. I have an obligation later in the afternoon that the commute would be prohibitive for that. I have no problem. I'm just posing it that sometimes trainings aren't as effective with the hybrid approach. So just asking the question, but if they feel they can deliver it, I'm fine with that as well.
Okay.
So I'm hearing maybe consensus that provided the people presenting the training are confident that we'd be okay with the hybrid approach. Okay. And Terry, would you mind sending that out to all the members again, just so that one hits the top of everyone's inbox again? I think that would be helpful.
I will do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So the next thing I have on the work plan update is the October 10th offsite meeting. So I looked at 3 different locations. I looked in the Dalles, I looked in Bend, and I looked in Ashland. And the Dalles, the Columbia Gorge Discovery Center and Museum, was the best, I'm going to say the best fit. And it really is a lovely place. So I'm asking if it's okay if we go ahead and move forward with this location on October 10th. It wouldn't be the first Thursday of the month, it'd be the second Thursday of the month. Co-chair, you wanna? Oh.
So just a question on that. Is there work going to be done ahead of time to make this hopefully effective with, you know, attendance and participation from, you know, the listening tour? I appreciate us going out there, but I want to make the most of it as well.
That was my next question, Sarah, is how do we want to do this? Do you want me to connect with community groups in the community and have them come and do a presentation, or, you know, what is this going to look like was my next question, Sarah. After, you know, if we're good with this location, then how do we want to connect with the people in the community? So do you want me to connect with community groups? So again, that was my next question. How are we going to connect with the community groups? Who should be at the meeting? Who should we invite? What kind of outreach should I do in the community so that we have the people that you want at the meeting to have those conversations?
That's a good question. I have some ideas on that. Do we have other members that have some thoughts on that?
I recall we were wanting to have both employers and employees attend. Am I recalling that correctly? So I would think, yeah, some sort of, if there's any agricultural groups out there or other industries, but probably outreach to some of those organizations where we could maybe get commitment from some of the larger companies to have not only the management, but also employees attend might be a way to target that.
So I see Ryan's hand.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think small businesses, self-insured employers would be a great reach out. Agricultural communities as well. Yeah, as far as reaching employees, I think that's going to be the harder one to reach out to. Maybe posting on community boards or something along those lines. But as far as the location goes, I'm excited to go to the Dalles. So thanks for setting that up.
And I see Margaret's hand.
Thanks for all the work of finding the location. I'm wondering if it would be beneficial to send an invitation to the local medical association, just if there are clinics who have some thoughts about workers' compensation benefits in their community.
Happy to do that, Margaret.
So I don't know if we have records from previous MLAC road shows, even if it's 10 or so years ago, if there was any kind of outreach model that was used there. I'd say leaning on the Ombuds office for both small business and for workers would be helpful. I think the kind of community outreach is helpful. I know I can get in touch with AFL-CIO and other unions and Piccoon and others that represent folks way out there. I think, business contacts, whatever, management members have in terms of trade associations and others that they can get in touch with. I know that we have employers out there as well that are signatory to our union that we'd be happy to do some outreach. But I think maybe if we do kind of a beefed up public comment section that sort of gives people a voice and a platform to start, and then we can go through the meeting, that may sort of attract some interest from folks. And then also potentially do a public comment at the close. And I don't know if we can have some staff on hand or an administrator or something like that to discuss sort of, this is the MLAC process, this is what MLAC's about, and sort of answer some questions as we go along. And then whoever's chairing the meeting, I think kind of going over how the meeting works and the process would be helpful just as an educational point and good governance. I know that we, as part of our apprenticeship program, Smart Local 16 does a mock union meeting for apprentices so that they know kind of, hey, this is what Robert's rules are. This is how you run a meeting. This is where, if you have an issue that you'd like to bring up, this is when in the meeting you'd bring it up. This is how you reach out to staff to get that put on the agenda, sort of all that, basic process stuff that you may not know if you're new to this process. But just getting that out there, I think that's helpful. I know it's the way that MLAC operates, and we have a pretty well-established way of operating, even as clunky and awkward as it feels at times. But I know that there are other advisory committees and other things and other agencies that operate somewhat similarly. So this is sort of an opportunity, obviously to really center on workers' comp issues and MLAC and how we do things, but I think generally to kind of draw folks in and public engagement generally would be pretty healthy. I don't know if, even some high schools or something we could reach out to get some outreach there is always good in communities to, engage parents and community leaders and such. Or have an announcement at a city council or county commission meeting, just as a sort of, upcoming meetings or points of interest would be helpful as well. Sorry, that was like 20 darts just flung at the board. Figure one of them.
Oh.
And I see a hand from Sarah too.
Thank you, Scott. I like the idea of using it as an educational forum, maybe a presentation from the ombuds offices, because we do have lots of small businesses in the area and how they can utilize those resources better would be very beneficial.
Okay, thanks. Thank you so much. This helps so much.
And I would encourage folks too, especially if there's stakeholders that have brilliant ideas, email Terry, email your members on MLAC that you have a connection with. or if you hear anything in the community, you have a cousin or a grandparent or something that you talk to out there and they have an idea, please, let us know.
Okay, I just have a couple more things. Thanks for all those ideas, they're great. I wanted to ask how the notice of compliance poster with the QR code is being received by people. It's like this. Sorry, it's not gonna come up. I know we sent it out and everybody was gonna check with people and find out how it's going. There will come a point where we're going to need to reorder them here at Workers' Compensation, and we need to decide if we're going to have the QR code on them or not. So I just wanted to check in and see how people are we good with them? How is it going?
Okay, I think it was fine, except, just not having the same landing page on a Spanish version and the same equal information. Those were my concerns that remain.
Okay. And we're working on that Spanish website. So once that gets completed, then it will have the same information.
Right, I just didn't want it to slow down the process on the English side either. So.
Okay, so I have one more. The injured worker website, the flow chart that we looked at earlier this year, it's on our website. Can you see it? It's on our website.
I see Ryan's hand.
Thank you. Yeah, so I had a couple coworkers just kind of review both. So they did the QR code as well as the mapping. Both found them easy to use. Granted, they're both Spanish or English speaking people. So, but they found the QR code very useful and the map very useful as well. So it was great feedback on my end.
Great, thank you. So let's see, I think that's the last thing that I just want to say is that since we're meeting in person in June, we have the training in June and the training in August and the offsite meeting in October. I talked to the co-chairs about canceling the July 11th meeting. So what does everybody think about that?
I think it's fine as long as it's statutorily allowed. Do we have to meet monthly? No? As long as we can get updates on the October 10th and then the cancellation of the July meeting, that would be helpful.
I'm always available.
All righty. Not seeing any other questions or thoughts on that. Anything else for department updates and such, Terry?
Nope, we got through everything. Thank you.
Yeah, so not seeing anything. I know for good of the order, Workers' Memorial Day is coming up, April 28th. I think Friday, April 26th, Oregon AFL-CIO is going to honor the 56 workers from across the state that lost their lives while doing work on their jobs in 2023. They have two different events. I think one is at 9:30 with the Oregon State Firefighters Council on the East Bank Esplanade beside Portland Fire and Rescue Station 21. If you Google Oregon AFL-CIO's Workers' Memorial Day, there's a link to the two things. You can RSVP. The second event is at noon. There's a ceremony at the Fallen Worker Memorial on the Oregon State Capitol Mall. So I just wanted to plug that info for folks so that everyone's aware and able to participate in those if they so choose.
Scott, would you be able to share that with Terry? And maybe Terry, you can send out an email with that information? That'd be
Yes,
great.
happy to do that.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
So anything else good to the order? Well, with nothing else, I want to thank everyone again and wish you a happy weekend. We're almost there. Tomorrow is weekend eve. So happy, health, safe, restful weekend, and have a good one. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, all. Take care.
Thank you. Of course. You don't have to.
Sure.
You were great. Yeah, you answered the